Hello, everyone, and welcome um, to our webinar. I'm aware you are seeing a black screen just for the moment. There we go. Now I can go ahead and... So thank you for joining us at our orientation webinar for Brightspace Essentials. This is a webinar meant to help you get used to navigating this brand new system or site that you will be taking your courses in the semester, because before this semester, we were indeed in Blackboard. So I see that there is a hand raised, and I just want to ask that if you have a question, I'll mention this in a moment, but please do put it in the QA for me. So I do, before we get started, want to just highlight a couple of other webinars we have. First, tomorrow, we have one on credit for prior learning. So if you were here during our welcome webinar, you heard a little bit about this, but essentially there are multiple ways to get credit for what you already know, college credit for what you already know. And our experts from the Credit for Prior Learning office will be with us tomorrow evening to talk more about that. Then it will be back with me next Tuesday for our webinar on writing like a pro, essays, academic integrity, and AI. So as I mentioned last webinar, in a previous lifetime, I was indeed a college writing instructor, and this is something I still love to work with students about. So if you have any concerns about writing, about academic integrity rules, or about how to use or not use AI in your classes, this will be the webinar for you. And then lastly, we'll have one more webinar on resources to help you thrive at CUNY SPS next week on Thursday. So that will be about resources like the New York Times subscription you can have for free, but it can also be about resources and offices at SPS that can give you a lot of assistance. In terms of questions, so if you have a question you want me to answer about the content of this webinar, please do pop it in the QA. I'm going to do my best to save ample time for a QA at the end of this, and I'll also periodically try to check in just so I can see if there are questions about something I'm covering. If you're having technical issues, so you can't hear me, or you can't see the screen for some reason, anything like that, please do put that in the chat. I am joined by wonderful people on the events team who can help you with that. And I also want to give a shout out to our captioner. Thank you so much for being here with us. So if you do indeed need captions, please do take advantage of those. Now, this webinar is going to be a bit different from the last one, because while I am going to be on a slide for the moment, I am predominantly going to be navigating our orientation site and doing things there so that you can see the processes. So this really will be like you're sitting next to me staring at the computer screen. That said, we are going to cover logging in and exploring your college homepage, as well as navigating your course pages, announcements, instructor profiles, content topics and discussion posts, submitting assignments, which is key, and taking tests and quizzes. And we'll also discuss checking grades and just some tips for the semester, at which point I will be back here on the slide deck. So let's hit our demo. I am just going to change over to another window because I have got a favorite way to log into Brightspace, and it is indeed through cuny.edu. So my suggestion is that whenever you want to log into any system or platform for your courses at SPS, that you actually go to www.cuny.edu because if you hover over login right here, you've got access to all sorts of things you'll be using. So you've probably already used CUNY First, and you can log into that there. Brightspace is here. And later on in the semester, we'll send you information about how to use DegreeWorks, which is a tool you can use to really think about how the courses you're taking fit into your degree requirements. And it can really help you get a bird's eye view of your progress. But for now, you will need to click Brightspace/Blackboard. And once you are there, you will be here on this page. So for us, we are in Brightspace.
Angela?
And
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We don't see your Brightspace screen. We still see
let me pause and do a new share. Thank you for that, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to see it now?
Now, yes, we see the Brightspace logins.
Perfect. So I'm going to go back to that previous page. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the page I was talking about before. And you can see login right here. And this is where I was mentioning CUNY First, as well as Brightspace/Blackboard and DegreeWorks. So this is that page. So if you head to Brightspace, /Blackboard, you can see now the two options. And on the left, you can see login to Brightspace. So at SPS, this is what you are going to click. If by chance you are taking a class at one of the campuses listed here, you will still need to use Blackboard for them. All CUNY campuses will be in Brightspace starting in fall of 25. But for now, you'll click login to Brightspace. Now, I am pretty sure I am already logged in, but if you are not, this is going to give you the login page where you will put your single sign-on. So that same page or that same login that you use for CUNY First, where it's your first name, dot, last name, and the last 2 digits of your EMPL ID, that is that same ID you would use here. When you are already logged in, so say you had to use DegreeWorks for something, it will keep you logged in for all of the other platforms. So as you can see here, I am now on the Brightspace homepage. So there are a couple of things of note. You can see that I have access to fall courses, but that is because I am not a student. For you, if you log in right now, you will not see access to your fall courses. Those will appear and be available to you on the first day of the term. So please do not worry if you don't see them. If you are worried about your registration, head on into CUNY First to just check there. That'll show you in that system. The other thing I want to show you is that you can see on the top bar here, there are college resources, student resources, a link to the library, and a link to help. I want to just click on one so you can see these are key links to different services across the school. So, for example, if you're realizing that you are in a situation where you could really benefit from psychological counseling, there's free counseling available to you, and you can learn more about that here. And it is listed here because we really do want you to use it. Likewise, you can also access more information about disability services. So we will talk more about this in a future webinar, but I want to mention it now. If you are someone who has a physical or mental health condition, it can either be permanent or temporary. Pregnancy can count, for example. You are going to want to reach out to the Office of Student Disability Services sooner rather than later, because they can work with you to get you through the process of potentially having a formal accommodation. And those can be things like more time on exams, advanced opportunity to see resources, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to highlight those two in particular. Other things that are available is you can actually have an access or link for access to the bookstore. So there were questions about how to find where to go for books. You can access that through the college resources page, as well as EAB Navigate. So Navigate is one way. If you've made an appointment with your advisor, you may have used it already. The use is being expanded. So for example, in the future, you will be able to indicate that you would like a office to reach out to you through EAB Navigate. So just please keep an eye out for this as well. Lastly, I do want to point out that if you scroll, for me, there's a bit more scrolling, but there's information about upcoming events. In this case, you can just click the calendar and you can see more info there. And as you keep going down, there's information about some key resources that may be useful to you. I'm thinking in particular about information about the textbook grant and the food access initiative. So please do feel free to just scroll down and read this information at your leisure. Scrolling back up, I'm going to enter into our orientation course. And you can see that I have a whole bunch of notifications. So in this case, this is really because I'm a faculty member. But what will be useful to you is that you'll be able to see that there are unread discussions in the site. Really, to log in, just click on the name of the course, and that will bring you to the homepage for the course. Now, I am going to change to view as a learner because this is the closest I can come to seeing things the way you do. But I do want to note there will still be a couple of differences. So on this main page, we have announcements here on the left, and you can see the most recent announcement on top. If you scroll, you can continue to see other announcements from an earlier date. If announcements are not here, you can also click Show All Announcements. So you'll be able to see any that have either been timed out or have been hidden from this particular page, because otherwise the scrolling might get a bit long. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Then your general course layout, pretty similar. You've got that bar on the top, but you can see that the contents of this bar have indeed changed. So course home brings you right back to this page. If ever you want to go back to seeing the announcements and all of the modules for the weeks, you'll come here. Content will bring you to another way of viewing this information. Discussions brings you straight to the discussion board. And activities gives you one way to see the assignments and quizzes in the course. I also want to highlight, I'm skipping a few, but I want to highlight this tutoring button because there are multiple types of tutoring available to you. The main tutoring page, which I'll just click here, will take you to the website that has full information, not just about tutor.com, but also about the writing fellows and the quantitative reasoning fellows. My suggestion to you is that if you want to work with someone who is an expert in SPS, CUNY SPS, ideally you'll be working with the writing fellows or the QR fellows. However, tutor.com has availability 24 hours a day. And if you are a Spanish language speaker, some subjects have tutoring available in Spanish. So that information is there. And you can also go straight to tutor.com by clicking this button as well. Beyond that, I do want to let you know that while there is a bit of information about your instructor, or in this case, your facilitator at the bottom, this clearly is not the full information. And often this space will tell you where to go to find out more. So I'll do that in just a moment and you'll see more about me. But I also want to show you this item down here, because if you click this button, this will give you access to information about the context for your academic program. And this will be at the bottom of your courses updated for the fall when your fall course becomes available to you. So since I wanted to show you more about your instructor, I'm actually just going to go to start here because in orientation, all of these modules are organized the same way. So when you first enter a module, you'll have information at the top, and this may include a due date. You can also see that there is a progress bar. And in this case, for me, it says 5 of 6 topics complete. Some courses will be set so that as you go through the items, it will automatically mark them as complete. Others will ask you to mark it as complete yourself. Orientation, in this case, is one that will mark it as complete for you. And so you'll see that check mark whenever you've finished viewing something. When you haven't, for example, I have not done this questionnaire, there is a circle, and if you hover over it, it will tell you that this in particular is a task to complete the quiz. So I have not done that yet. In order to navigate through, it's really quite simple. It's actually, in my mind, easier than Blackboard because you just click into the first item. In this case, it's the syllabus for our orientation. And you can review this. This will be the same for any PDF or file. You can either look at it inline, you can choose to download it, or you can choose to print it. If you are someone who needs an alternative format and it's available, you can have more info there. And you can see I've got that check mark here saying I viewed the content. Once I'm ready to move to the next one, I can just check the arrow that's on the top and bottom of the page. So this, for example, is a video with a tour. And just like the last, even though it's a different type of content, top and bottom has that information here. I can also say I want to add a bookmark. So this is something that's important to me. I want to remember where it is. So I can give myself a bookmark to do that. And if it's something where I'm finding it's just difficult for me or I want to have 2 windows open at a time, that's what this button does. Lastly, if you find you don't want to navigate in order for some reason, if you click this arrow here, this gives me information about everything in this module, and I can also navigate it here. So if, for example, I wanted to, for the moment, skip Meet Your Facilitator and go straight to join us for the webinars, I can just click it here, and here I am. This is another way that content can look, and you can just click on it and find more information. And you'll see information listed in this way where there's just a lot of content, but we don't want you to have to scroll for days. So that's there. And just to show you what the more information about your professors, or in this case, facilitator, looks like, here you can see that full bio. So you can see there's just lots more information. And I mean, this is me, so hello. I want to pause here just to see if there are questions. Are the resources shown on the main page all the way down? I'm not quite sure what that means there. So I want to make sure I understand. So if the person who asked that question can give a little bit more clarification, I would appreciate it. I do see someone else asked about information accessible immediately. So if the question is about the site I am in at the moment, this person is saying they do not see the orientation site. The question is if you have registered for courses yet. If you have registered for courses and it's been more than 2 days since you registered for courses and you do not see this, please do email me. I'll put the email address at the end of the webinar. Give me your EMPL ID, that's that 8-digit number, and I'll be able to look into why you do not see the site I'm in. Other questions? I did see someone ask why CUNY is switching from Brightspace to Blackboard, and thank you, Heather, for answering it, but I do want to just share more. While this is a transition, I can say from the students who were our first cohort over the summer, overwhelmingly, they are finding that Brightspace is actually much more user-friendly for them. And so it's just an easier, better experience all the way around. I am finding that it's also more accessible. So it is a bit of a learning process. However, once you get used to that, that will indeed be, I think, a much more positive experience. Again, your courses will be up on Brightspace. You'll see your first courses for the fall on the first day of the fall semester, and that is the case every semester. So you should be able to see them, I believe it is the 28th of this month. Another question. How was I able to see all of the webinars? So I'll just go and show you where that was again in just a moment. And I will show one more time how to get to Brightspace just to make sure everyone is clear on that. So I'm going to go to cuny.edu, which is my preferred way. You'll hover over login, click Brightspace/Blackboard. And then on this page, just click login to Brightspace. If you're already logged into the system like I am, it will take you straight to this page, which is the home page. If you're not logged in yet, it will ask for your single sign-on. So again, that's your first name, period, last name, the last 2 digits of your EMPL, and it will have that at login.cuny.edu. So if you've logged in to CUNY First, it will be that same login. If you've logged in to CUNY First while you were at another CUNY college, so for example, Kingsborough, it is that same login. And also your EMPL ID, that 8-digit number is also the same here as it was at any previous institution. So to get to the page where I was showing the information about the webinars, in this case, I am logging into orientation. So you should see the orientation site here. If you have registered for courses, you would just click on it. And once you are here, again, let me make sure I am a learner. And in this case, you will look at the table of contents and you will go to module 0. Click on the name of the module rather than on this eye or this icon. Just click right here. And this is everything in the module. So the orientation syllabus is first. And if I were to go here, I would be able to scroll through. But if I wanted to go straight to the webinar list, I'm looking for join us for our webinars. And I just click on that link. And that's where that is. And again, just as a reminder, you can click on that arrow on the side, and then you can see everything that is in this module. You can also use these arrows. So this is a quiz. I am going to return to quizzes in just a moment, but what I did want to show you is just by using the arrows, and this is why, particularly in the beginning of the semester, I suggest navigating the site with these arrows. As you use these arrows, it will take you through not just content that you need to read or view, but assignments that you need to complete. And so you will be able to come here and start the quiz and take those steps as well. And when you finish a unit, because this is the last item in this unit, you can click this and it will bring you to the next one. So because I've already done some things, it's actually skipping me to where the first item I haven't completed is. But on the side menu, you can see I have access to module 1, and I can just keep on going as long as the modules have been made available. So if you're someone who is really missing the way that Blackboard used to look, I find that this is the view that is closest to that. But remember, you can always click Course Home and go right back to that page where you can see the different modules that are available. I'm going to pause just to make sure there are more questions. So yes, The way that orientation is set up, the question is, with all the material we receive, it will show us how far we are in the lesson. Yes. So you can see even just here, because orientation is set up to check mark as soon as I've reviewed an item, it's showing me I've looked through in module 1, 21 of 24 topics. In this case, excuse me, let me just move this window out of the way. For learning asynchronously, I've actually done everything. And in this case, it's because I've not just reviewed the material, I've also submitted the assignments. And over here, I've done nothing. So that's there. Just remember that some courses may require that you manually say, okay, I have reviewed this. So just be aware if that is the case, this bar will not move until you've manually set that. In terms of how to bookmark, I will show that to you in just a moment. And I'm going to leave the assignment specific questions to the end, so I do see them. All right, so going in here, I want to show you how to use a discussion post and how to use the tools. And in particular, I'm going to do so by going into this module. So I'm going to go into the top view so you can see it, right? This is showing me all of the sub areas. So think of these like you would have seen folders in Blackboard, right? And the difference is that I'm actually looking at the contents of every subfolder all at once. If this is too much information for you, which it may be, just clicking this arrow will hide things. So you can focus on one thing at a time as well. And if you go into one, remember that you can continue to just press that left or right arrow to move through. I'm going to go into, excuse me, communicating effectively. And I'm actually going to skip to discussions in Brightspace because I want to show that to you. Before I do though, just one more time, there was a question about how to bookmark. The answer is when you are in the area you'd like to bookmark, if you look at the top, there's this little arrow or this little icon rather here, and you can click that to bookmark something that's important to you. So clicking to the next item, it is a discussion board. And this is telling me both information about the discussion board. So if you find you need a review, this is where to go. But also, just clicking that next button actually brings me to the discussion board itself. And in particular, in this case, it brought me to the forum I need to do something to. So I can see the assignment instructions at the top. I can then see the threads that have been posted just by scrolling down. And if I want to start a new thread, I will click this button here. Now, the other way to go to discussions is to just click discussions. What I want to warn you about is that this will show you all of the available discussions that are in the course. So in this case, that can be the QA forums, can also be introductions where I was, and time management. If you are in a group, those forums are also here. So whereas in Blackboard, you needed to go into your group space in order to access the group discussion board, here you can do that all on this page. And just like I did with the folders, I can hide things if I need to, or I can expand things if I need to. So this one is hidden, this one is expanded, and I can say collapse, and that hides all of these 13 areas, right? Likewise, if I wanted to hide the QA forums because I don't need them right now, I can just say collapse, and now they are indeed collapsed. And this is an area where I do indeed like the discussion boards more here. I can see that total in all of those different areas, those topics, I have 2 unread posts And I can click this just to be able to see them all again. What's similar is I can see the number of threads. So I can see that there are 2 threads created in Ask an SPS Student or Graduate. I can see there's a total of 2 posts. And this is the ones I haven't read yet. And if I click this button, it will actually take me just to look at the things I haven't read. Now, I'm not scrolling just to make sure I don't have student questions on this page when we're recording, but you'd be able to scroll down and just see everything there. The other thing I want to show you is that when possible, you can also subscribe. So if you wanted to subscribe to this forum, you would just click this button and you would have options about how to get your subscription. So you can see that this is all more customizable than it was before. Do I want just to see an instant notification? Do I want a summary of activity? And it'll tell me where it's going to email that to as well. If you remember in Blackboard, you only had the choice between subscribing to a forum and subscribing to a post. Well, in orientation, you can do both. And you can also say, even more than that, oh, I want to subscribe to everything, all of these Ask Help items. Well, just click this button. So there's much more customized options there. I am going to go into time management because I want to show you what a post looks like before I make a post. And I made a sample. So here is our sample. You get a little bit of a view here. And because I made this, when I made it, I subscribed to it. So that's why you can see that star is filled in. I have not subscribed to Jillian, so I'm just going to click it. And once again, you see that same set of options. Going into my sample submission post, here is what things look like. And I'm going to show you how I made this. But I just wanted to show it to you. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to put an image in, how to create links, and also just how to reply. I'm going to do it by making a reply. So I'm in here to make this reply, and you can see what probably looks nice and similar for you. If you're used to Blackboard, you're used to seeing what is called a WYSIWYG editor. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. And in this case, what that means is that if I see something is bolded here, it's going to be bold when I post it. If I see an image here, the image will be there that size when I post it. Just like with Blackboard, there's more actions and less actions. So if you see just one row and you're missing some, go ahead and click that ellipses button. You'll have more options. If you want to add the original post, so you're quoting it and you want to go ahead and see that, you can just click that button and it'll show you the post below. And sometimes that's useful if editing is turned on and you want to be clear about what it looked like when you made your response. So that's an option. I'm actually going to delete all of that because I don't need it. So essentially, or actually, you know what, I'll start from there. So if you want to have a link, right, because you can see down here, I had created some links to a couple of useful resources. If you want to have a link, one thing I love is that you can actually have a couple of ways of making one. One is to just click this quick link button. And when this loads, this gives you a bunch of different options. Now, you will have different options than I do here, but for you, you're going to want to click link, and you would put the URL right here, and you don't have to do anything further. You can just say insert. I'm going to go here to grab this picture of the cat, which you saw, because the other way to create a link that I love is you can now actually just use keyboard shortcuts. So let's say you don't want to be bothered with all of the bold or italicized icons that are on the top. If you know the keyboard shortcuts for either a Mac or a PC, you can actually just use those, just like you would in a Word document. So on a PC, to add a link, the shortcut is Control and then the K key, and you can see that open that exact same window for me. In that case, if I'm using a URL rather than just typing one in, my suggestion is that you get rid of the HTTPS, because otherwise that will be in the front twice. And you just say submit, and now you can see I have a link. And in fact, you can see if I click on it, it gives me the opportunity to open it, to make sure it goes where I want it to edit it, or to just get rid of it. So those are all options. But likewise, all of the other keyboard shortcuts work. So I can do Control B, and I've now bolded submission. I can select everything and press Control B twice, and now nothing is bolded. So if you are familiar with the shortcuts in Word, most of those work here. Other things to show you is, you can see this is a very small box. So just remember, if you go here or in the lower right corner, you can extend it downward and see more information or more space. And for images, I want to show you a couple of different ways that you can do that as well. So one option is to just insert stuff. I love that that is the title of it. And this will actually give you a lot of different options, including links once again. For images, once you have an image in, you are looking for this icon. This is insert image or edit image. And this is a URL, so you do not have to have it on your computer. You can actually just use a website. One suggestion I have for you is to mark if something is decorative. This is so that if you have a classmate who cannot see or is visually impaired, when they're using a screen reader, it will skip that for them. If it's not, you want to add the description to the bottom. And I'm going to just remove this so you can see the size it originally was. If your image is giant, it's a bit too large, that is also where you will update the width. And as long as this lock key is selected, it will actually automatically go ahead and take care of resizing it for you without warping it. If you want to undo what you've done, you've got these buttons. If you want to delete the image, you can go ahead and do that too. But once you're done, you can just say post. I do see some questions. Let me pause just to see what they are, just to make sure. Yes, so one question about discussions is, in Blackboard, we couldn't see others' discussions until we added our own. Is this the same or are they open? So sometimes that is indeed the same. And so in your, I want to say your career narrative assignment in Brightspace here, that setting is the same. So you will go there, and I'll actually go there now. So let me save this. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll post. So now I've got my response. And I will go back to the discussions and just show you how that looks. So I have access to all of them because I'm not a real student. But if I go in and I've remembered correctly, yes, you can see at the bottom, it tells you you must start a thread before you can read and reply to other threads. So that setting is the same. I do want to note, however, that that will not always be the case. So if I go back to discussions, and for example, I go to the QA forum, that form is not set in that way. So I can see it, all of the questions that were asked here. So that is the same as in Blackboard, where sometimes if it's been set that way, you do indeed need to make your post first. And if that is the case, remember that just like in Blackboard, you are not going to be able to edit. So in those cases, please do your very best to make sure that you are posting something the way you want it to be seen. When it is not that way, if editing has been turned on, you will still have the ability to edit. Let's see if there are any other questions about this so far. All right, looks like that is it. Now, I also want to talk to you about submitting assignments. And unfortunately, there's a limit to how much I can do with you live because I am not a real student. So I'm going to show you where to go. And then I'm going to show you where to see the information in this site about just sort of a live demo for it. If you are not already accessing this site, please do send me an email at orientation@sps.cuny.edu. Because I want to make sure you have all of those materials as soon as possible. So for us in orientation, there are a couple of ways to find where assignments are. Now, of course, my big suggestion to you is at least once go through the modules like I was with the arrows. But let's say you've done that. You went through the modules for the week. You remember there was an assignment. You're not sure where it was, you don't want to hunt, right? There are a couple of places you can go. One is to look down here. If work to do is enabled, you can actually see all of the work that is due upcoming. So for example, I can click submitting assignments, and that takes me straight to the assignment area. And so here, where you see assignment prompt, reflecting on mindset GPS for success. If I click on that, that brings me to the assignment page. Before I do anything here, I want to show you the other way you can get here, which is go to activities on the top. And in this case, specifically, I'm looking for assignments. And it will show me not just the assignments in a particular week, but throughout the course. And crucially, whether or not I have submitted it. So I want to make sure you are aware this is a great place to go if you're feeling nervous about whether or not you have submitted a task. Just be aware that whereas in Blackboard, assignments was kind of a catch-all for everything you would submit, right? Like assignments could be an essay, assignments could be a test, assignments could be a blog, right? In this case, it is truly talking only about certain types. So if I go back here to activities, you can see there's another button for quizzes. And here is where I can see those quizzes. And just the same, I can click in here and there it is. And this is where, because I'm not a real student, I'm afraid my start quiz button is not available. So I'm going to tell you about it, but I'm afraid I cannot take the quiz in front of you. I can, however, submit an assignment. So we're going to do that. To submit an assignment, however you appear on this page, so whether or not you go through activities, assignments, the task list, and course home, or you are just going through the module, you will have access to a couple of things. One is that you'll be able to see all of the instructions. There will also, in the case of a rubric, be a link to the rubric here. My suggestion to you is actually surprisingly similar to my suggestion for when you were in Blackboard, which is whenever possible, you are going to want to use a file rather than typing here. Truly use this text entry box to add comments you want your professor to be aware of. So for example, if you want your professor to know that in this essay draft, you're really nervous about the introduction, that's what you would put here. You wouldn't put your actual essay in this space. So instead, you would click add a file, and you've got multiple options for where. I'm going to add a file from my computer, and I am going to add, why not? We'll add a raccoon. So I've added a picture for this. You can see the file and the source. And I can also click on this. And what this will do is it will take me to where I can see what the file was. For me personally, I tend to stay on the page instead. So instead, I've opened it in a new window, and all it did, as you can see up here, it downloaded it to my computer. So if ever you're like, I'm really nervous, I want to make sure that this was the right essay file, you can go ahead and do it that way. Either way, when you're done, if you've put any comments, you can say submit. And congratulations, you have submitted your assignment. You have the ability to see your submission ID. Once again, that same link here. So I'd be able to click this just to see it again. Your comments. You can see the submission date. And this should also be sending you a confirmation email. My suggestion for the first couple of times you do this is that you actually just do a print screen or a print to PDF of this page if you want to have proof of submission. So that is always an option, because I know sometimes we all feel a bit nervous about systems when they are new. So if you are feeling nervous, here is a way you can go ahead and save evidence. And then I'm going to go here. I'm not sure that it's going to send it to me the way I'm hoping it is, but here we are. Yes. So now that I have submitted, you can see I have one submission, and that included one file. When a professor has graded my work, I will be able to see my score as well as the evaluation status. Remember that you can always come back here, and this shows you the information. So again, this just says comments because those are the comments I gave. And it shows you the file you attached as well. I can open it as well, and it is currently unread. So just be aware that that is there, as well as the due date. So you can see there are just more easy. It is easier, English sometimes is difficult, but it is easier to see information about the status of your submissions. And so I just wanted to really highlight this page for you. It is similar in terms of your quizzes. So you will also, by going to activities and quizzes, be able to see that same information. You can also go to grades. And I want to spend a moment of time here for a couple of reasons. I know that seeing all of these Fs can be really scary, right? Because it looks like I'm just failing every assignment. That is not what this means. Remember that before you have submitted an assignment, you have 0 points for it. And what would sometimes happen in Blackboard is because Blackboard would say, oh, the student hasn't submitted the assignment yet, so clearly they're not responsible. You would see that your total grade in the course was 100%, right? You had 100% of the points. And while that's fine in the beginning of the semester, toward the end, it can make you think that your final grade is higher than it actually is. We don't want you to have that kind of nasty surprise. So instead, what it's showing you is that at the moment you have not submitted this work. And so when it is giving you your total grade in the course, it is saying, well, at this point, you haven't submitted this work yet. It's okay, but it's 0 points. So please do not worry about seeing these Fs unless the assignment was already due. Okay, you can see that in this case, I'm seeing that same information about submitted, and you can see that it is pending evaluation. And where I want to go next is I just want to show you what this will look like when you have received feedback. So I'm going to show you where to go in orientation. And then we will do some final tips, and I'll make sure there are no other QA areas. So in module 1, you can see there's a lot of information here. I'm going to go just to the top level. And you can see information about thinking about, oh, excuse me, I think I am actually incorrect. Learning asynchronously. Maybe where it is. Give me one moment to find this item. Apologies, y'all. So essentially what you want is, checking your grades in Brightspace. So it is module 1. I'm just going to do it again, but do it directly. Module 1. You're going to go to submitting assignments. And underneath the assignment you saw me submit, checking your grades in Brightspace. So this has all of the information about how to check your grades and what that looks like. So you can see it's pointing you to that same window I went to. And what you can see is how this looks a bit different, right? So you can see I've got a C for my discussion, got this number of points, and just like in Blackboard, I can click this icon, and when there's a rubric, I can see how I scored on my rubric. You can see your final calculated grade, right? And what that grade equates to. So no more nasty surprises at the end of the semester. And if you are submitting an actual assignment, so let's say I received feedback where I had just submitted that assignment, you can see the overall comments, but remember now you can actually see the comments that are in the margins. So this is why you are using attachments rather than trying to just put things as comments, right? So this will be a link, and when you click it, just like you would in a face-to-face classroom, you'll be able to see all of that information. What I covered about class progress is also available under tools, and you can see all of this information as well here. So this, I'll go myself. Actually, I'll use the pictures because mine will be a bit confusing to you. But essentially, this page has a summary, and then you can see your grades there as well. So you can see there's just so much more information, and it's so much more intuitive. So for that student who asked, why did you leave Blackboard? This is why. This is the reason. So again, for information about this, before you are actually seeing it in orientation, this is where to go. But part of why you are in orientation is I, as your facilitator, will be giving you feedback, and you'll actually be able to just practice looking at it in orientation as well. So I want to pause here because I know we are short on time, and I want to just give you some last tips. It looks like I may have frozen. There we go. All right, so I'm going to just run through these a bit quickly. First, be aware that you need to set up your notifications a bit more. So you saw how when I was in the discussion board, how I had to really choose how I wanted to be notified. Make sure you are indicating that. And let me just make sure you all can still see my screen. Can I get some thumbs up if you can see the screen still? Perfect. And I want you to just be aware that you can also set up notifications by clicking on your name and going to notifications here, because you can see there are all sorts of things you can be notified about, and you have to opt in. All right, so I want to make sure you're aware of that. The other tips are very similar. So just remember to note the class's weekly due dates. because sometimes a course week will go Monday through Sunday, but sometimes depending on the first day of the semester, you might have classes that run where the week opens on a Wednesday and closes on a Tuesday. You want to make sure you are scheduling yourself appropriately and not getting surprised. We always suggest logging in 2 to 3 times a week for these 15-week courses. If you're taking a 7-week course, daily, please, because those move quickly. And remember to check your announcements and email frequently. Also, ask questions early, give as much information as you can, and please be aware it may take about 24 hours for a response. And that's why I always suggest logging into the course a bit early in the week so that if you go through everything and you realize, oh, I don't know where something is, or I have a question about this assignment, you're giving yourself that 24-hour clearance before the due date. Also, just be aware there are resources. So remember in the beginning, I was showing you all of those resources at the top. Please look there. I also want to highlight that this is not all of the help you can get with Brightspace. There is a CUNY dedicated Brightspace helpline. So it is not staffed by people at CUNY. It is staffed by Brightspace. So you can actually call Brightspace and say, hey, I'm a CUNY SPS student and I can't figure out how to submit my work, and they can help you. You can also reach out to the help desk. And if you want to speak with someone who is a much more expert in Brightspace than I am, there is Brightspace Day tomorrow. There are a couple of sessions, and I put information about that within the most recent announcement. So if you are available during those times, they are 30-minute sessions, and you can go there, but just also be aware that you can ask your questions to us in orientation, and we will continue to help you. That is what orientation is for. So I'm aware that we are low on time, but let me see if we had any other questions that I can answer now. So one question is, do you have to work in groups or independently? Some courses will have group work, so you will be working in groups, but not all of them. So thinking about Gen Ed, most Gen Ed courses off the top of my head are independent, with the exception of things like peer review assignments. Another question is just, do I need to worry about my score on the quiz and orientation? No, do not worry about your score on the quizzes and orientation beyond using that as emphasis of something that you need to review. So for example, the academic integrity quiz, if you scored low on that, that's a sign that you should review the material. Can you delete a submission if you're not happy with it and resubmit it? That depends on the settings. So sometimes yes, sometimes you will not be able to do so. Most of the time, your professors will be reaching out to you via email. So that is a big reason why you're going to want to check email, check your CUNY email for messages from your professor. There's a question about, can you also send, I'm thinking this means assignments using audio. If it's an essay or something like that, if it's not something where it specifies audio, I would suggest not, because most of the assignments are for writing. If you are having a hard time completing the academic integrity quiz, please send me an email so that I can look at what your particular situation there is. If you are logging in and you are currently seeing Queens College on the Blackboard homepage, excuse me, the Brightspace homepage. I think it's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to saying Brightspace. But if you log in here and you are seeing Queens College, it sometimes just takes a little bit of time for it to cross over. So question one is, have you registered for your courses yet? If you have, and you are seeing orientation, you are in good shape. You have not registered for courses yet. That is why you are still seeing your previous college banner. And if you have registered for courses and you are not seeing orientation, that is another reason to reach out to me. If you are someone who has multiple campuses, so you are a staff person at one campus and you are taking courses at another, it is normal to see one banner. So please just make sure that you see the courses you should be seeing under my courses. That is actually surprisingly the same as it was in Blackboard. It is just an issue where it's a little bit more obvious now. I would suggest for assignments that you submit that you use Microsoft Word or PDFs, and you will have access to Office 365 as a CUNY SPS student. So you can always use that, but if you are more familiar with, say, Pages, please just remember to save as. If you accidentally put an essay in the comment essay area rather than an attachment, you are going to want to reach out to your professor if something does not allow you to resubmit. Some assignments will allow you to resubmit, others won't. I do see the time, so let me just see if there's any more that are being asked repeatedly. There is indeed VoiceThread, so VoiceThread will still be available. And all of orientation is essentially pass-fail. So the question of, do we have any pass-fail grades for orientation, class, and assignments? While the assignments within orientation itself are not going to show you pass-fail, all of orientation is essentially pass-fail for completion. I see there are still questions coming in, but I do want to stop because I want to make sure that I respect your time. So at this point, I just want to invite you, if you have any questions whatsoever, please remember you can head into the orientation site, go to discussions, and ask us for help here, because you can ask me questions in this QA forum. If you've got technical questions, you can ask the help desk. And if you've got questions you want to ask a successful student or graduate, we've got peer mentors, and they are here to answer your questions as well. You can always email me at orientation@sps.cuny.edu. So thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate you joining us. And I hope that this has been a useful introduction, but please do feel comfortable playing around in orientation. I can always clear your attempts. So if you want to try something another time, just let me know. And I hope you find Brightspace to be as pleasant to use as I'm actually finding it, despite being used to decades in Blackboard. So please take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and have a good one. Bye, everybody.